What's up? What's up? What's up? It's the clickbait guard, the always slightly late guard. What's up, Gavin?
Chilling. How's it going, man?
Going pretty good, pretty good. Weather is decidedly worse in Kansas City than where you're at over in New Orleans. So, grappling with the fucking seasonal end to fucking warmth and sunlight. It's just dreary. I've been spending a lot of freaking time inside now. But how's sunny New Orleans?
Absolutely. I just changed my name to reflect my location so we don't get any more questions about why we're not in the studio. Still in New Orleans, guys. We'll be here until the 10th, but then it's back to business in Kansas City. But yeah, glad to be back on the mic. We got some interesting stuff to talk about, some more of that good Sam Seder versus Jimmy Dore drama, the feud that never seems to end, luckily for our channel. Lots of good stuff to react to in that regard. But yeah, super excited to be back.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like we already got our first super chat of the show. So shout out to you, Alex. But before we get off to the races, well, shout out to you, Alex. Excited to hear the T also had a blast talking with you yesterday. Yes, we did do a great interview with Alex. I imagine he's putting that up on that YouTube show, Alex Talking to People, because he changed his name for the episode or since the last episode we've recorded. So shout out to you, Alex. It was a great time talking to you, and everybody should go ahead and check that out. But we also wanted to,
Oh, sorry. What was that?
Oh, I was just passing the baton to you. I see you're back.
Gotcha. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, great chatting with you, Alex. Everyone check that out. We just actually retweeted that Twitter account. So if anyone doesn't already follow us already on Twitter, hit us up on Twitter at Vanguard_pod. And you can find that interview we just did with Alex, which was a lot of fun. So shout out to you, Alex. Really appreciate the super chat as always. And yeah, that was a great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Alex and shout out to our patrons. There's the lovely people in our Patreon community that keep the lights on here at the Casa del Vanguard, keep us coming at you regularly, keeping the show on, as they say. Really appreciate all you guys, Vanguardians, super Vanguardians, comrades. Of course, you're all comrades to us, but we like to begin and end every episode with a special shout out to the folks that support us on Patreon. So shout out to you all.
Yeah, huge shout out to the Patreon community. Thank you guys so much for the support. As always, we like to start and end our live streams with a big old shout out to the patron community. That link's going to be found in the description below. So again, a huge sincere shout out to the patrons. Thank you so much for the support. And like I said, the link can be found in the description. We're 100% viewer funded, 100% independent. You guys know that. So the patron support really, really, truly matters. And it's really the best way to support the show and keep us sustainable. So again, hit up that link in the description. If you're able to, we'd really appreciate it. Even just $5 or so a month goes such a long way. So again, huge shout out. Really appreciate it. And we got a great show for you guys today. Like I said, before we get into this Jimmy Dore, Sam Seder drama, I know we had a Bernie Sanders story that we wanted to talk a little bit about too, Zach.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Bernie Sanders today, breaking news. Well, so we can gab a little bit about the Raphael Warnock victory in Georgia, the runoff in Georgia as well. But yeah, if we get this article pulled up here, Bernie Sanders introduced a bill that's kind of similar to one that you guys might have been familiar with. That was, I believe, Ro Khanna and like Rand Paul in the Senate, collaborated under this on a bill similar to this under the Trump administration. But now with a brand new president, Joe Biden, they are, introducing a war powers resolution to the floor to basically end the support of the United States, supporting Saudi Arabia. And it's essentially, it's just an onslaught of Yemen. Hard to even call that a war. It's just an annihilation at this point. The people of Yemen have been starved for years. They've been bombed relentlessly, all part of a power mission by Saudi Arabia. And look, I get it. The United States, we're no saints. We don't really have a high horse to talk about bombing countries that are poorer than us to the smithereens. But at least the least we can do, is end our support for that, which we are actively, undoubtedly playing a role in with the military industrial complex, sending our weapons over there, making our weapons manufacturers richer off the intense suffering of the Yemeni people. So if you read this piece by Ryan Grimm and this guy, Daniel Boguzlaw, sorry if I mispronounced that, Daniel, Bernie Sanders is moving toward a vote hopefully next week on a war powers resolution aimed at blocking U.S. support for the Saudi-led war in Yemen. The Vermont senator told The Intercept on Monday an agreement for a ceasefire in Yemen between the Saudi-led alliance and the Houthis, who are backed by Iran, has expired, though both sides have tenuously maintained peace. Backers of a war powers resolution say that a strong vote in the Senate in the lame duck bill will send a signal to Saudi Arabia that it does not have a free hand to restart hostilities, despite the Biden administration's more placating posture and its hunt for lower oil prices. So I may have oversold it at the beginning. Who knows if this would actually end the war profiteering that we're doing in Yemen, but at the very least, it would signal a congressional disapproval. Anyway, probably better than nothing. Did you have a reaction to that, Gav?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see if this will be successful, or if Bernie will be able to coalition build with some members from across the aisle to maybe get this done. It will be interesting, however, to see if the measure would be vetoed by President Biden, much like it was by President Trump, who, LOL, anyone that ever calls Trump an anti-war president. Let's remember the fact that he fucking vetoed a bill to end the war in Yemen that we are enabling, the genocide in Yemen that we are enabling, that we are funding. So like I said, it'll be interesting to see if it gets to Biden's desk, which I'm not saying it will, but it's possible, I suppose, if Joe Biden does the same thing. Opinion on that, Zach? Do you think he would?
I mean, he's been such a soft guy on Mohammed bin Salman, the prince and soon to be fucking king of Saudi Arabia, right? I mean, he completely placated him on the Jamal Khashoggi stuff. He presented like he was going to play hardball during the presidential primaries and during the election, and he talked about what a disgrace it was, the way that Trump had been dealing with Saudi Arabia. He didn't use the word disgrace. That's too much of a Trump word, but you guys get the point. He pointed out the flaws in it and said he was going to take a more tough guy approach with Saudi Arabia. That absolutely did not happen. He also talked about getting back in the Iran deal, and now that looks like it's basically dead in the water under his presidency. So, you can't really take anything that Joe Biden says from a foreign policy standpoint too seriously. I mean, the only thing you did follow through on was getting us out of Afghanistan, and who knows if he would have taken that initiative had it not, really presented itself to him. So I don't know. But it does look like, there is going to be some, I don't know. It does look like there will be enough support to at least send it to him. And if that's the case again, then I don't know why he would veto it. That would signal such an obvious weakness, such an obvious pivot. And he's already taken a decent amount of flack from the press about how he's handled the Khashoggi killing. Not enough, in my opinion. Jesus Christ, not enough. But to some extent, I don't see him going to the extent of vetoing it. That would look like too much of a Trumpian move. There would be too many parallels to Donald Trump that could be easily drawn by the mainstream media. So I hope that this time, getting however many fucking votes, 60 whatever fucking votes we need to actually pass some goddamn legislation in this country, that this does go well. Because like I said, in 2018, when the bill went through, they did get enough votes. So hopefully that happens again and we can end, our role at least. And typically, they're not going to go against our wishes. It's not like it's nothing to have the United States Senate and Congress vote on this.
Yeah, it's definitely possible, though I'm still quite wary of Biden doing anything other than vetoing this, given how desperate we are for that Saudi oil and decent relations with them for the sake of gas prices. We all remember Joe Biden fist bumping MBS, refusing to condemn his killing of Khashoggi, like you mentioned, Zach. I struggle to believe that Joe Biden would do anything other than just continue to grovel at the feet of the Saudi regime. But still, it's a good thing that Bernie introduced this bill. Absolutely. Hopefully it gets somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a really good point. He's about to be running for re-election, and we are overly dependent. See, because here's the two options that I could see Biden doing. If he doesn't veto it, I could see him just go ahead and saying that we're going to open up the environment to fucking more drilling, or we're going to just go ahead and destroy, previously protected or stuff that, Trump had gone into to and start talking about increasing our domestic output of oil, dipping into that. But you're definitely right. It's hard to tell what the fuck the guy will do. Like I said, he's been pretty I don't want to say inconsistent. He's been consistently bad. So you're probably right to fucking anticipate that he'll continue to be. But I do think that he needs to show some sort of diplomatic backbone before re-election. But who knows what the fuck he'll do.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting story. Kudos to Bernie Sanders for introducing that bill. I'm glad that they're not just completely letting that die away and people forget about it, because it is insane that's going on, especially as we continue to virtue signal about how much we care about humanitarianism as it relates to the Ukraine and Russia war. Meanwhile, our taxpayer money is funding actual genocides and other wars in other countries like Yemen and obviously Palestine as well. Although I definitely don't expect any action on that front. So yeah, good thing the conversation is still being kept up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, I mean, Bernie hasn't been 100% across the board, but he does still seemingly manage to try and come out of the woodwork every once in a while and do something on the margin. So I guess Bernie Sanders on the margins, not exactly what he sold as a revolution, but at least he's still there, trudging out every single day, trying to do something, I guess. Did you have a reaction to, or I guess Gavin's coming in and back out really quickly, but I was going to ask if you had any thoughts about the fact that it honestly, it looked close for a little while last night. But as the votes are being counted, it actually looks like a pretty much an ass whooping in the runoff. If you compare it to how the performance was at the midterms, and then you compare the turnout for Warnock today or yesterday, excuse me, it looks like, I mean, the people of Georgia have decided, they are not interested in Herschel Walker. Finally, thank God. More people voted for him than I'd be comfortable with, but it does look like Warnock is going to have his first full 6-year term as a U.S. senator, and the Democrats will now have a majority in the Senate guaranteed. What did you make of this? Did you look at the voting charts? Did you have any thoughts on the shift that's going on in Georgia, and if it's going to be considered a red state for much longer, given the fact that both of its senators are now blue again?
Yeah, so definitely pretty crazy stuff, although not entirely unpredictable. The polls did have Warnock up in this runoff, and he did triumph once again over Herschel Walker. I still think it's dumb that they have to do the runoff, even though he won the initial vote. He got more votes than Herschel Walker did, but for whatever reason, thanks to the laws in Georgia, they have to do a runoff. So he once again triumphed. And yeah, it was definitely close, but it was still a decisive victory. As it says here, 51% for Warnock, 51.35 for Warnock, 48.65 for Herschel Walker, which is still too close. Let's be honest, guys, still a little bit too close, just given the fact that Herschel Walker was such a fucking clown. One of the worst candidates the Republican Party put up nationally easily. And I thought that our friend of the show, Olayemi Olorin, made a really good point. She said, relieve that Warnock won, but please don't make the mistake of starting the whole "this proves America has rejected the right-wing extremism" narrative. It doesn't. Herschel Walker is a brain-dead fool who had 900 scandals, and he still barely lost. And I think that's accurate, and I think that that kind of goes for a lot of these midterm races, even the ones where Democrats came out victorious. It wasn't necessarily because the Democrats did such a great job. I think Warnock ran a good campaign and is overall a decent senator, at least if you compare him to a lot of this, super corporate Democrat counterparts. But let's be honest, guys, the reason why the Republicans did so bad, the reason why the Democrats won a lot of seats, like in Georgia, like in Pennsylvania, that should have been easily winnable by the Republicans, is not because Joe Biden is doing a good job. It's not because the American people approve of his administration. It's because Trump endorsed a bunch of fucking lunatics, a bunch of fucking freaks and insane people like Herschel Walker that were just so easy to reject, right? So I think that Herschel Walker really was just a candidate that almost just couldn't win. This guy had 900 scandals, like Ole says. He's a wife beater, a child beater, a serial philanderer. He's funded like 5 abortions from his various mistresses. So just a terrible candidate all around. The Democrats are lucky that Trump endorsed so many fools and so many unelectable fucking clowns. And I think that he totally made it possible for the Democrats to have these kind of victories in the first place that otherwise might have been a lot closer, if not just L's for the Dems.
Oh yeah, they definitely 100% got a leg up from how dumb as fuck Herschel Walker was, just how he walked in front of every fucking possible scandal, and then a bunch of them caught up with him. And like he brought a bunch of bad shit onto himself. Like he thought he was talking about living in Texas while he was running for fucking senator of Georgia. Like just shit that you would never see a regular actual like polished politician have to deal with, all those kinds of things. And as I'm looking at it, for whatever reason, I thought that there were still more votes to count in the Atlanta, Augusta area that were like supposed to inflate Warnock's margin of victory. I'm not sure how many of those have been counted, but yeah, 100,000 votes. Pretty close. Not as razor thin as we were looking at last night, but still a decent amount of basically everywhere besides the urban centers in Georgia, right? Like the Atlanta, Augusta areas are basically the only places that Athens win. Obviously, Macon, Georgia win, Savannah, Georgia win, and then a few other of these miscellaneous precincts or whatever you want to call them. So pretty interesting, but that just shows you if it had been a more competent guy up there, if it had been a better communicator, and again a guy that didn't step in front of like 80 trains, just carrying like the worst fucking like most of, like Donald Trump could have a lot of the shit roll off of his back, but not everybody is Donald Trump. Right. So I don't know. The abortion things, his own son going after him and talking about how he was like afraid of him growing up, like stuff you just can't ignore. It was kind of like Eric Greitens. It was like Eric Greitens did so much shit that you just can't ignore. Like he beat his own child. Like what the fuck? You can't vote for a child beater. Almost nobody can vote for a guy where it's like, yeah, he like blackmailed his wife and then beat his child. It's like, oh geez, that's kind of a deal breaker. I don't care if you like, I wouldn't vote for you even if you were like the only socialist on the ballot. I'd be like, fuck this asshole. You know what I mean? So
Totally. And yeah, the thing that separates a guy like Donald Trump, who obviously also had a million scandals, and a guy like Herschel Walker is that Trump's actually an effective communicator. Maybe not as much these days, but in 2016, the guy actually had a message that he was running on. And despite the fact that he was a total phony, he was channeling a lot of genuinely populist ideas. Versus Herschel Walker can barely get a fucking thought out. You get the sense that you don't even know what he's doing, let alone what state he's in or what seat he's running for. He slipped up the other day and said he was running for the House. And it's like, bro, do you even know what you're doing? Like, are you just an actor? Like his heart didn't seem like it was in it. He was a terrible politician from the start. There was nothing commanding or charismatic about him. And obviously, I mean, just because you're a fucking football player doesn't mean that you're going to be a good politician. And I think that was the case with Herschel Walker, right? Just because you're a celebrity in the arena of athletics, that's not going to necessarily translate into the speaking skills and the charisma necessary to be a politician. Add to that the fact that he has CTE and apparently DID as well. I don't know if you saw that, but apparently he has dissociative identity disorder, which you talked about previously. We're just talking about an overall nightmare candidate and someone that was really going to be easy to defeat. And Warnock's definitely not my favorite Democrat. I think he has a lot of shortcomings, but he is a competent communicator. The guy was a reverend. He was a reverend at the church that Martin Luther King Jr. preached at. So clearly he has the oratory abilities to translate into the world of politics. There's a lot of similarities between a good preacher and a good politician. It's about, espousing your message in a way that's, confident and easily communicable. So a lot of skills there that transferred over that I just think Herschel Walker wasn't able to compete with.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like, and we can get into this because I know some people were pointing out, like, hey, Warnock is no fucking, picnic. Okay. He's not going to go in there and change anything. No, absolutely not. But it would have been a goddamn disgrace to have a guy like Herschel Walker as a U.S. senator, and he would have supported any horseshit, horrible piece of legislation that the Republican Party had put forward. He would have just gone with whatever the fucking bros were saying, because he clearly had no ideology of his own outside of he was trying to get elected. And he was, like you said, Gavin, he wasn't even like really convincing that was something that he wanted. It was just like, oh, I'm a former football star. Everybody in Georgia loves me. Maybe I guess I'll do this and, have another like trophy on my mantle that I became a U.S. senator. He wasn't going to want to do anything. So he would have just done whatever, gone along to get along, with Mitch McConnell and whoever the fuck else. So I do think it's pretty undeniable, the fact that it's a clear benefit, a tangible benefit to us all that Warnock won. Although, of course, it won't be meaningful in the ways that
No.
you and me and any of these other people that regularly tune into the Vanguard are interested in. What it was is it was just a backstop to, okay, hey, now, because what I worry about is if the Republicans had gotten control of the House and the Senate, my big fear in the back was like, what if in the name of bipartisanship, Joe Biden just started trying to pass some craziness, and then he's like just parroting what Joe Manchin wants this, and even a lot of Republicans think it's a good idea. That's how Bill Clinton damn near destroyed this country. He basically did. And you don't want any of those nefarious fucking ideas entering Joe Biden's head. So if anything, let's just say that we have that going for us.
Yeah, 100% correct. And thank you so much, Brian, for the 199. I agree with Gavin that Biden will veto it. That's in reference to the bill we were talking about earlier, meant to try to stop the genocide in Yemen, funded by our money and perpetrated by Saudi Arabia. So, yeah, I do think it's a very likely possibility that Biden would veto it. And thank you so much for the super chat, as always, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to you, Brian. And yeah, it's fucking bullshit that we can allow people to profiteer off of an undeniable human rights crisis. So absolutely. And Warnock's acceptance speech was all about himself and his family, very substance free. Don't expect Warnock to advance much of a policy agenda. Oh yeah, I absolutely do not expect that. But to his credit, the dude is a preacher. Like, of course, like that's his bread and butter, just going out and talking and saying whatever the fuck he wants. So that's getting election, or that's getting elected, right? That's politicking in the up and coming process. But yeah, I don't expect him to do anything other than just, as I said, basically what Herschel Walker would do for the Republicans. I think Raphael Warnock is going to basically go along to get along with much of the mainstream Democratic Party. Occasionally, maybe he'll do something where he like bucks the orthodoxy, where they're like Bernie Sanders is already doing it, and like a few other senators are already doing it. But yeah, I definitely don't expect him to go out and forge his own path, even though there are some base clips of him like defending socialism and saying some cool things while he was moving his church and giving a sermon or whatever. But I don't expect that to be policy that shows up in any meaningful sense either, Brian. But thank you so much for the super chat. We really appreciate it. Always good to see you in the chat.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brian. Really do appreciate that. And yeah, the best thing you can say about a guy like Warnock is that he's better than a guy like Joe Manchin, right? Who's also in a purple to red state that's very hard to win as a Democrat. So Warnock could have taken the approach where he's just going to be the most right-wing Democrat possible and literally hold up all the pieces of legislation that are even remotely progressive. He hasn't taken that approach, but that's not to say he's somehow based or left-wing at all. He's, for the most part, a pretty normal Democrat. But thank you so much for the super chat, Brian. Really do appreciate the $4.99. And thank you so much, Hysteric Raider, as well, for the $2. Win for now. The trend is still moving right. Yeah, I mean, that's true. I think if the Republicans just dumped Trump and were able to free themselves of the Trumpian shadow, which is currently overcasting any of their electoral prospects, I think your statement would be on point, Hysteric Raider. But until they do that, I think that Trump's going to continue to be an albatross party and really prevent them from getting those wins that are easily achievable if they were able to dump him.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think that the problem is going to be that it's a weird balance of people being too crazy to win, and then also being the fact that they've actually convinced a significant portion of the Republican Party, like not a majority, I wouldn't say, of the Republican Party, but a clear plurality of the Republican Party does want these deranged fucking lunatics to be running. Like there is a significant amount of the Republican Party that Trump. So I think the bitch for the Republicans right now, and what's been, despite all of their fucking dumb fuckery and their lack of initiative and their unwillingness to pass legislation and stand for fucking anything, the Democrats have been winning enough because enough of the Republican Party really wants that, and then enough of it like really doesn't want it, that they're almost like dividing themselves, and then they become easier to slay. So I don't know. I think that there's truth to what you're saying, that the trend is moving right, but I think that the rightward shift has happened, and now it's just like further insulating itself away, and that's doing damage to the Republican Party as well. Not that that's a fucking good thing. It's not.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much, Hysteric Raider. Really appreciate that as always. And we're about to get into the Jimmy Dore versus Sam Cedar stuff, guys. So sit tight. But shout out to you, Kelly, as well. Thank you so much for the 4.99. As terrifying as all Trump's endorsed candidates were, the razor thin majority of 3 is no bragging rights for the Dems. They're in deep trouble. I mean, yeah, I guess, although it has to be pointed out. And you guys know that I'm no fan of the Biden administration. And I think that the midterm results were more of a repudiation of Trump than an endorsement of Joe Biden by the American people. But it must be pointed out that Biden is the first president since FDR to retain every senator in their first midterm. Usually in the midterm elections, the president gets wiped out in the House and the Senate. And Biden's actually the first president since FDR to retain every senator in their first midterm. So I do think that they have the bragging rights. That is a historic victory. We can't deny that.
Yeah, I mean it's tough because the Democrats do such a good job of like setting a low bar and then undermining even that low bar. So I definitely like empathize with your frustration, Kelly. Like it's bullshit that they didn't run better candidates in the House, and I do think that if they'd actually passed some good legislation, if they passed a tangible infrastructure bill, if they hadn't gotten rid of the child tax credit extension, if they hadn't done some of these things that were really meaningfully fucking impacting people's lives, if the first thing Joe Biden had done after taking office wasn't short the people $600 in their stimulus check, but actually give people an extra $1,800 from there, another 12 on top of making it right the first time, I think that he would have been in a way different position, especially if he'd sent one out over the summertime. He's like, guys, this is a big time, for the economy. And one of the signs that, like people need you to actually spend the money that you go out and so the first couple of times people are paying off their fucking bills, their credit cards, they're saving money. You give people even more. Then it's like, well, it would be nice to take the family out to a restaurant. It would be nice to, go see a fucking movie with my family and take them out. And then that's when you actually see like fucking economic stimulus. So if they hadn't been such tightwads, it would have been way better for them. So I definitely see where you're coming from. But as far as the Senate portrait looks, Gavin's 100% correct. I mean, the fact that they're coming out with 50 plus the tiebreaker, and the re-elections across the board, it is it's an accomplishment in a way.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Kelly. Really genuinely appreciate that. And thank you also, Alex, once again for the 199. Relieved that Walker lost. Yeah, I was too. Not going to lie. Not going to lie. Not that it's really going to change anything, but it does feel good that the American people or the people of Georgia rejected such an obvious fucking fraud and such a, abject fucking failure of a candidate and a complete hypocrite too. Having, funded all these abortions and cheated on his wives and beat his children out here espousing family values and conservative values. Shut the fuck up, fucking fraud. So yeah, I'm also relieved.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to you, Alex. Always good to hear from you. And yeah, we talk about this all the time. This is what massively frustrates a lot of people about the dynamics of American politics and domestic voting is the fact that, well, you can't vote internationally, but you know what I mean, like local voting and shit. It's the fact that it's always a relief that XY lost, and very, very rarely I've never gotten to experience voting for somebody that won where I was like, wow, this person is gonna win. Like never in a real election. And Bernie never won any of the primaries either, although he did win the state of Kansas, and I actually didn't even fucking vote in that. I was working at Sarpino's Pizza, and I couldn't get the fucking day off because voter suppression is real, and I was like 18. I didn't put my foot down about it. But anyway, so that's a big truth, but it's also frustrating that we can't be excited that Warnock won, even though he's supposed to be this like savior candidate. Not happening though.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Alex. Really appreciate that as always. And sit tight, guys. We're about to get into the main story. Shout out to you, Hysteric Raider. MSM also normalizing crazy. Good ratings. Yep, that's also a problem. 100% Hysteric Raider.
I mean, even Gavin and I have to grapple with that sometimes. It's like the news ebbs and flows, right? And sometimes that is going to chase the media to cover one thing over and over and over and over and over again. You try and do your best as a person that's trying to stay in business, but the mainstream media doesn't have to fucking worry about that as much. They're just gonna. It was the same thing that got into RussiaGate, right? They were so used to the ratings that they could get by RussiaGate. So what did they do? They inflated the story massively. They made it a huge deal, and then it was just like reality TV for fucking Karens and boomers to go out and watch that every night and like, oh my god, the fucking Steele dossier and the Michael Flynn and fucking X, Y, and Z going on. So I mean they're gonna definitely try and recreate that model. So
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Hysteria Creator. Really genuinely appreciate that. And thank you also, Connor Lanker, for the $10. Really appreciate that. His
Not sure if the audience can still hear Gavin.
fraud. No, actually, he did not pull Carrie Lake and claim fraud. Either, Zach?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I think you just cut out for a little bit while you were reading that.
Oh, sorry about that. Connor says, has Walker conceded yet? If not, do you think he'll pull a Carrie Lake and claim fraud? And the answer to that is yes, he has conceded, and no, he's not pulling a Carrie Lake. He's not claiming fraud. I think the results were just a little bit too decisive for that. And the fact that we found it out the 5 or 6 days. So it gave her a little more wiggle room to be like, oh, they're stealing it. Stop the steal, stop the steal. And she is still out here saying that. But yeah, Walker did concede, and in his concession speech, he even urged the voters and his supporters to trust in our elected officials. So a little bit of a different tone from Walker.
Yeah, absolutely. So shout out to you, Connor. And yeah, fortunately, that's not something I mean, it's been incredibly normalized in the Republican Party, but I think Gavin's right. The fact that it was just, we knew decisively that day. It was decisive enough that we were able to see, a big, like 100,000 votes or so on the first night, enough for people to call it. Like, I remember when I was still biting my fucking fingernails, I saw guys like Dave Wasserman being like, I've seen enough. We're only counting shit from like Atlanta and Augusta, and that's, they're going to go heavy Warnock. And so, I was like, holy shit. And I think that one, that had a lot to do with it. And then two, if there was a lesser degree of what had to do with it, I don't think that Walker really wanted to be a fucking senator all that bad. I don't think that when it came time to do all of those things, I just don't think he was as committed to like an ideology. Like, say what you will about Carrie Lake, she's a fucking crazy person. I have no nice things to say about her, but she is committed to the cause. Same with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Like, she will show up and she will fucking do that shit, and she wants to. It wasn't just like a clout thing, which was one of the reasons why Donald Trump wasn't able to accomplish much. He was in it for the clout. He was in it for the acclaim. He was in it for the prestige of being president. Walker. Fuck me. They're both W's. W-A. Walker. He didn't seem like he wanted it that bad. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%, 100%. And here I can quickly play this video of Carrie Lake for you guys. You can see she's refusing to accept that she lost the race for governor. This one's pretty funny. The coping and seething is real.
And for starters, pray. We really need God in this world. We need God in our hearts, in our homes, and in our country. And I know God's making a big comeback in this country. I feel it. I talk to people who say, I started to return to church. I brought God back into our families' lives. It's so important right now. We're due for a couple of miracles, I think. But I also believe we have, on top of that, we have a really good court case, and we're going to open people's eyes to what went wrong. There's times I felt just like the voters out there in Arizona, despondent over the last couple of weeks, because we have such an amazing movement. And then I think about what God, our Father is doing. If your dad said to you, sorry, I believe in you so much that I'm going to put you in charge of something difficult.
And I don't know if it's not playing for everybody else, Gavin, but I don't think we're getting all of the video.
Gotcha. Sorry about that. Basically, Carrie Lake saying if we just pray hard enough, maybe the results of her election will be overturned, and that she'll be declared the rightful winner of the Arizona state, or the governor race, rather. So yeah, that's pretty funny, guys. If you want a Carrie Lake victory, just keep praying.
I thought that was hilarious. She was like, I've been hearing from lots of people that they've decided to bring the church back in their lives, and that's like statistically untrue. If you look at this is the steady decline in like young people deciding to like become religious. Like, fewer people than ever are going to church. Like, when right wingers harangue about that, that's true. They're not lying. They're like, there are less people going to church now than ever before in the past. So that's true. I just think that that's for all kinds of reasons. Not necessarily, like, there are still a fuck ton of religious people in this country, but I just think that they're not, that like people are divorcing their religion from not everybody, that Jesus Christ, not everybody, but like from their like actively looking for that from a politician. It's just that
Right.
The crazies like Carrie Lake and Marjorie Taylor Greene and the evangelicals of the Republican Party, like Mike Pence, that are still desperate to hold on to that. And honestly, for the most part, I think that's just getting in their way. There just aren't that many people that are interested in that. But I'm sure she can, milk the cow from the people that are into that. Those people love sending money in the form or prayers in the form of money. But anyway, shout out to you, Christina. The Dems aren't in trouble. The American people are. Both parties pass the same horrible bills that hurt regular people. Hard to argue with you there, Christina. If you go back through the time, I can just about rattle off a dozen pieces of goddamn terrible legislation from any given president at any given year. So, yep, can't argue with you there, Christina.
Yeah, thanks so much, Christina. Really appreciate that. 100%. And do you want to get into this video, Zach, before we address the last couple super chats?
Yeah, keep them coming, guys. We'll get to them by the end of the stream. If you have a question or a comment or a note for us, go ahead and drop it in there and we'll get to it. But yeah, let me go ahead and throw up this majority report video and we can go ahead and begin our react along with that guy. I think you guys are going to enjoy this.
Yeah, this is a good one. I was definitely interested in Sam's take here. I can't say I agree with everything that Sam says in this video, so I'm excited to break it down with you guys and react accordingly. So yeah, keep those super chats coming, guys. I promise we'll react to all of them in due time, but let's start this clip and check it out. I thought this one was pretty interesting, like I said.
A little bit his presidential run so far, hasn't it?
Oddly, yeah. I mean, I think part of it's like, he's not back on, or he's technically back on Twitter, but he can't use it, which must be the most tempting thing ever. Because
got too much money in Truth Social.
With the SPAC raps, I'm back.
Yeah.
Hold on for a second. You know what? Do we have that Jimmy Dore clip?
Oh, from hate speech?
Yeah. This is fascinating. Just coming up. Like we've just made the point. We don't hear much about Donald Trump right now on some level. I mean, there's obviously I think there's, the press is sort of a little bit tired of covering him and this and that. But how is it that it's easier to ignore Donald Trump right now? He'll give a rally. Fox News will cover it. OAN or whoever, whatever these people are will cover it. Get that teed up. But the fact is that he's off of Twitter. The former president of the United States, maybe now one of the most famous men on the planet.
Yeah.
The reason why he's not dominating the news in the same way that he has in the past, there's a bunch of reasons, but one of them is just clearly he doesn't have access to this big platform. He is stuck on Truth Social because he has some type of deal where the value of Truth Social is a function of Trump being on there.
It's an exclusivity deal. He has to wait, I think, 8 or 10 hours before he posts anything on a reciprocal or similar social media platform after he posts on Truth Social. And a lot of his money's tied up in it. So it's
right.
It's a beautiful, beautiful conflict within this, heaping asshole of a man, which is that his arrogance and his narcissism is in conflict with his greed.
Yeah. But the point is that it exemplifies what happens when someone is deplatformed, even if in this instance, he's deplatformed himself.
Mm-hmm.
We also saw this with Alex Jones. Simply less, in fact, you also see it you can even look at it in terms of Howard Stern. Howard Stern still made a tremendous amount of money. But before Howard Stern went behind a paywall on Sirius satellite radio, he was in the news every week. Every single week, Howard Stern was in the news. It was,
Just a friendly reminder by this guy's made some money. This dude's a billionaire. Howard Stern is literally worth $1 billion. This man is a billion with a B. His net worth dwarfs Joe Rogan's net worth 100%. He is a literal billionaire with a B. Just because most people don't know that. And imagine being a radio host that ends up a fucking billionaire and all you do is run your mouth. I mean, hashtag goals, guys. See ya. Fucking, send me to the gulag. I'm kidding. But
yeah, AP reports or whatever. He had done something on radio.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Gavin.
I was just going to say, I do agree with Sam there that it doesn't even seem like Trump is really running right now. Like, you think that the fact that he's running for president again and is such a controversial figure, you'd think that he would be driving the news cycle and the discourse a little bit more than he is. And it's almost kind of like odd. It's like a little bit surreal. It's like, are you sure he's actually running? Why is no one talking about him? Why does he not have the ability to command the same sort of media attention and command the sort of controversial discourse that he once did? I'm not sure if it's because he's off Twitter entirely, but I think that's definitely part of it.
Yeah, 100%. And it goes to show this is one of the reasons why Gavin and I oppose generic censorship, right? This is one of the reasons why I prefer a free or platform, right? This is why I always say I don't like, I always say I never shed a tear for these fuckers when they do get kicked off, but that doesn't mean I am cheerleading for their removal, right? Like, if it were up to me, like, I would have never banned Jackson Hinkle. If it were up to me, I would have never, Steven Crowder, whatever, those kinds of guys, like, I wouldn't ban them. I know a lot of people on the left feel differently, but no, I like the devil you can see. You got to keep an eye on your enemies, right? I want to know what the fuck they're saying. I want to know where their rhetoric is. I want to know when Tim Pool is fucking giving kids gloves to literal Nazis on his podcast. I want to know when Alex Jones hey man, this guy is too anti-Semitic for me. I want to know that, and I want the people to know that. And I do think that there's a risk in spreading, children to these young ideas, right? But I just think that those, like, making them hidden, making them fucking, oh, it's a secret, like, blah, that just makes those fuckers like it more. You know what I mean? And it just drives their attention. Clearly, it's like Donald Trump's base admittedly has dwindled, but I think that's because a lot of his own fucking missteps, right? I don't think it necessarily has anything to do with his removal from Twitter. I mean, he'd already lost the election when he was removed from Twitter, right? So, I mean, what were we supposed to not have access to the thought process of the dude in charge of the nukes when he was president? No, of course not. So I was always like, no, just let these fuckers on here. I don't, people say they're dangerous. Well, they're just as dangerous when you can't see them as when you can, I mean, when you break a law like Alex Jones, like, I get it, maybe then there's the case for it, but it's also, I mean, every platform for everything. I don't know. I would rather just see what kind of crazy they're putting out.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think that what we've seen with Kanye West recently has been proof of what you're talking about, Zach, where a lot of people are pearl clutching and saying, oh, don't give Kanye a platform. Don't interview Kanye. You're spreading his harmful ideology. Well, now we all know his ideology, right? And most of us, like 90% of us, are like, yeah, this is fucked up. Hopefully more than 90%, but you never know given the country we live in. Still, I think it's a good thing that we know who this motherfucker is, because previously, 3 or 4 months ago, a lot of people didn't know who the fuck he was. And now everyone knows he's a goddamn Nazi.
Yeah, 100%. And also for InfoWars proudest supporter, Snowflake's Nightmare over here, what law did Alex Jones break? He broke a fuck ton of them, and that's why he's filed for bankruptcy, because he was ordered to pay a bunch of money because he legally met the definition, which even Glenn Greenwald will point out is fucking hard as shit to do, right? Glenn, one of the most free speech supporters that there exists in this fucking country, will be like, well, yeah, it's very hard to fucking violate the publishing. And a lot of people agree with that. Gavin, I know you agree with that. I pretty much agree with it too. You want to have a lot of rope to fucking go on, but if you even break that, if you can find in a court of law in front of a jury of your goddamn peers that you have defamed somebody, like, that's a crime. And right wingers love to sue people for defamation. Okay, Donald Trump, the big guy, that was his whole shit. He had a big fortune and he would fucking go out there and he was, I fucking sue everybody. Okay,
Yep.
Just like the Weird Al song.
Yeah, and it's funny that Snowflake's Nightmare, that you're defending Alex Jones, who's clearly guilty of defamation, legally guilty of defamation, while also somehow supporting Donald Trump, who actually wanted to fucking open up the libel laws and make it easier to sue people for libel and defamation. So bit of a cognitive dissonance going on there, bro.
LOL, bro. You also know nothing about the law if you think you don't sue people after they've broken the law. That is how you win in court. You say, this person broke the law and now they owe me money. Civil suits are still about the law. We have a bunch of laws regarding civil suits. That's what they're called. That's what happened to Alex Jones. You're correct. It wasn't a criminal, but defamation is a civil crime. That's why it wouldn't be held in a criminal court. It would be held in a civil court, which is why money is the penalty. Come on, bro. You're gonna have to do better than that if you're gonna support your boy. Okay. Do we want to keep going, or did you have anything to add, Gavin? Good, rocking and rolling.
When you're in on a platform that is free and widely distributed, you maintain your cultural relevance. That's why, like, Glenn Greenwald's making $1 million more, $2 million on what do you call it, on his Substack. Matt Taibbi is too.
And they use Twitter, by the way, as a funnel and as an advertising.
They use Twitter to remain in the conversation.
Yes.
To remain culturally relevant, to expand their base. Why did Elon Musk insist that Matt Taibbi, the real question is, why did Matt Taibbi agree to this? But why did Elon Musk insist that Matt Taibbi release his blockbuster Twitter files? And we'll talk about whether that was actually a blockbuster before, on Twitter. It is because he wants to, make Twitter, he's struggling to keep it alive, but also it's just far more culturally relevant. If Matt Taibbi had written this story on Substack and people weren't able to reproduce it in other places, nobody would care.
And by the way, that's what drives their critiques of the platform as well, which is that
there was a big bone for us to react to. So, and I want to get your reaction to what he said at the beginning, and then also what they said earlier, because they say it like it's some like fucking pearl clutching like shocker that like journalists who exist in a digital age would promote their shit on Twitter. Like, guys, that's what literally all of us do all day long. If you are a lefty podcaster and you have a relevant Twitter account, all you're trying to do is get engagement, right? And that's what this whole give and take is when you're dealing with an audience. Like, people want to talk shit on the Vanguard all the time because we want people to pay attention to us. So we have to fucking, do headlines and clickbait, and I'll joke and call us the clickbait guard and whatever, right? But we're having a good, important conversation here. But that's exactly what other people are doing also. I mean, and sometimes I agree with Matt, and I like to make jokes that nobody that's over the age of 50 should be allowed to have a fucking Twitter account and all those kinds of things. But they're just doing what any other writer is doing, right? They're doing what anybody else is doing, which is promoting their shit. They're trying to get their eyes on more eyeballs on their work, and that's a good thing, right? One of the things Glenn said to us really early on in our career that stuck with me forever, and I do agree with this, is he was like, you realize that like you're not doing much good for the cause if nobody's reading your shit, right? Like, you can be this like like the most educated and like thoughtful person ever, but if you're not getting any eyeballs on your material, what the fuck good is it doing? And there's limits to that. I understand. I think everybody would agree there's limits to that. You want to tell the truth. Sometimes you don't want to make things too like salacious in a way that like makes people miss the point. The best kind of like big headline is like one that like if people hone in on what you're trying to talk about, but now we can actually get to like the meat of it. So I just thought it was a very, very poor way to start off this critique by like just basically blasting these two dudes for promoting their shit on Twitter for like not even for like money, but like just for free, like sharing their insights, gaining a lot of followers. Like, isn't that what like comedians do? Isn't that what like fucking everybody does?
Yeah, I for the most part agree with you, Zach. I think that most journalists would have taken that story, that scoop that Matt Taibbi got. So I don't really think that you can blame the guy for that. Don't disagree with Matt on everything these days, but I don't think that's a very fair form of attack against him. Again, I don't think there's many journalists that would have turned that down.
Fuck no, dude. What the hell? That's what also blows my mind about this. If it fell into my lap, I would have ran with it, and I don't fuck Elon Musk. Like, why would he give it to me? And I know people are like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I get it. Barry Weiss is super cringy, and I wouldn't want to collaborate with her either. Fuck Barry Weiss. She's super pro-censorship. Remember when she was on that massive list of people who were trying to get that, the Palestinian voices silenced and, calling it anti-Semitism and whatever. And that was like her whole big shtick, right? It was, yes, she's not a free speech fucking rallier in any kind of meaningful way, but so that was cringy for sure. But hey, I would have maybe said fuck off, I don't want to work with you on this, but that, like, for who knows how much they even really collaborated together on the piece. Anyway, and it was a massive scoop, and most journalists I feel like would take it. You can speculate like, oh, why did he give it to Matt, right? Because Matt has been massively sympathetic to Elon over the past like 18 months. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that probably had something to do with it. If you Matt Leck, shout out to Matt Leck, even though we're gonna be fat disagreeing with the majority report. A lot of love for you, Matt, over there. He made a massive fucking like bunch of tweets where it was like every single time Matt Taibbi would like put something out that was like, sympathetic to Elon Musk, and then Elon Musk would like be his reply guy on there, like, yeah, giving you the like thumbs up. So yeah, go ahead and criticize him for that if you want to. Like, oh, why are you gussying up to a billionaire? Why do people not give a fuck when it's a billionaire getting gussied up to by like a independent guy, like renegade billionaire, like, whatever. But if it's like Jeff Bezos, like all those people understand why that's super fucking wrong and corrupt and crazy. But but that's not to say you can't take a breaking story from Jeff Bezos. And if Jeff Bezos is like, hey, I'm about to fucking take over every supermarket in this country, and I want to break the story to you, I would be like, oh my God, everybody, we're all gonna starve. We're gonna have bread lines. Like, you know what I mean? I would immediately take to Twitter and tell everybody about that. So, I don't know. For the most part right here, I think that the only real criticism that you can make of Matt is like, okay, like, yeah, it's pretty obvious that you've been like cuddling up to Elon Musk, at least rhetorically on Twitter, on his platform. And that's probably why he picked you to tell this, to be, if you spend a lot of time railing against Elon Musk, kind of like he did in the past. Matt, there's a good clip of you, not that you'll ever see this, but there's a great clip of you on the Michael Brooks show. Or actually, I think it was a tweet I saw that, again, shout out to Matt Leck. I see all of his tweets, I feel like, where he was again being like, oh, this is a tweet from Matt Taibbi where he was talking about how Michael Brooks is like breaking Elon Musk's balls, and it's fucking hilarious. And it's like, yeah, you probably wouldn't see that tweet today because then you probably wouldn't get access to stories like that. And what crowd is always harping on access journal? I'm just saying, right? I'm just saying. So make that criticism. I'd make that criticism. I just did. But this shit about how it's like somehow wrong to promote yourself on Twitter and like share your takes on Twitter as a way of like getting people to actually pay you for your Substack, I just think that's crazy. That's what literally every YouTuber with a Twitter account does. It's all to fucking promote back to your actual shit. Like, I mean, unless your art is making tweets, which is definitely not my art, as Gavin will tell you. But maybe that's fine. But like a lot of us, like they want people to channel back to whatever their shit is, whether that's their writing or their broadcasting, etc.
Correct. And thank you so much, by the way, Car Juan, for the $10. Really appreciate that super chat. Off topic, but what do you guys have on Andrew Yang? Of course we would have on Andrew Yang. In fact, we've offered to host him on the Vanguard many times. He followed us on Twitter, actually. So I figured maybe he would be down to chat. Maybe he was down to engage with some of the constructive criticism we've thrown his way over the years. I actually DM'd him at the time back in July when he followed us on Twitter and said, hey, Andrew, noticed that you followed us. Thanks. Not sure if you're familiar with our show's content, but we were a big fan of your 2020 campaign and the promotion of UBI, but we became more critical of you during and after the mayoral race. Just wanted to say that if you're ever interested in having a civil and friendly conversation about our areas of disagreement on the Vanguard, you're always welcome on the show. So again, trying to keep it classy, trying to keep it civil, always down to engage with people we criticize. He responded with the single word, thanks. So, it's not really a matter of whether or not we would have him on. It's a matter of whether or not he would come on, and it doesn't look like he wants to.
Well, yeah, and just to give the guy his due, there's absolutely nothing for him to gain by coming on our podcast, and everything for him to lose, because we would make a mockery of that man. We would let nothing slide, and we would hold his feet to the fire, and I would bring up the fucking shit where he said that he was for the spirit of Medicare for all, and I would really rake him over the coals for that, and then I would start bringing up shit about Venture for America and how none of those fucking companies have been successful at all, and they always fucking leave. And you can't point to a single fucking benefit that your project had, except to parrot it abstractly that like you were the one that founded this horseshit enterprise, right? Anyway, we'd have a lot of words for him. The fact that he doesn't support raising the minimum wage like a fucking crazy person, he doesn't have any reason to come on the show. So I could say, oh, he don't want this smoke, which is true, but it's just because we are so small. Like I remember earlier we emailed these people, and didn't they say you had to have like 100,000 subs or something for them to like fuck with you or come on your channel? So I'm like, this guy, he doesn't want to talk to anybody that's not in it for the clicks, basically, or just a massive star. I'm not saying everybody over 100,000 is in it for the clicks, but like a lot of the people that he was on there was just like random YouTuber, like I'll sit down with you. He didn't want hardballs unless you were like, Kyle Kalinske or Jimmy Dore, and then he learned his lessons because he had to take fucking hardballs down the middle from both of them a few times, and he would always just fucking mean mug them the rest of the interview. It was like hilarious. We dogpiled him a lot for that, which I hope he saw. That would be fucking hilarious if he did.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, of course, we'd always be down to chat with the guy if he wanted to come on. We talk shit a lot on the Vanguard, but we're, for the most part, always down to talk with the people we criticize and say those criticisms to their face. So thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much, MX Row, for the $4.99 as well. Listening to God and Bible talk from thieves and liars is insulting. Yeah, absolutely. Referring to Herschel Walker. And that's 100% true. It's one thing to just be someone like Donald Trump, who doesn't, I mean, Donald Trump did claim to be religious, but most people knew that this guy was a fucking billionaire playboy. It wasn't terribly surprising when we found out that he had a mistress, Stormy Daniels. What a shock. No one was surprised about that, right? But Herschel Walker was out here really, truly claiming to be a man of God. And I do think that it is extra insulting to find out that his values and his previous actions were in no way in line with his rhetoric. Add to that the fact that Reverend Warnock is literally a fucking reverend. He was, a preacher at the same church that Martin Luther King preached at. So if you have those two options and you actually care about godliness and religion, you're probably going to go for fucking Raphael Warnock, the reverend, not a football player who's had 10,000 wives and funded 15 abortions, right?
100%. Although I will say I got a soft spot for the really big evangelical crazies. Raphael Warnock doesn't really preach like this, but the guys that like Sam Kinison was inspired by their style, the preacher in Borat, the evangelicals where they run around. And I had to play one of those dudes in a play one time, and so I will listen to a bunch of. I kind of have a soft spot for it now. You want to get an if you do feel it, can you feel it? You cannot feel it. I can feel it in you. Now you're down on the floor.
Speaking in tongues.
Yeah, dude, that shit is real, and you can watch people believe it. They will fucking just fall on the floor and fucking all kinds of crazy shit. Anyway, that's my Bible talk for you all. That's what I'm in it for. Just the laughs, honestly. Just the laughs. But anyway, yeah. And also, did you see the super chat? Epstein didn't kill himself.
I did see that, but it went away on my end, unfortunately.
Oh, that's okay. Shout out to you, Carl Hamilton. He says Epstein didn't kill himself. Right on. And I bet you the Brian Frederick super chat also might have disappeared on your end as well, where he says that we should check out Mike Preisner's podcast on DeSantis. Shout out to Mike Preisner, a guy I would love to have on the Vanguard. He does follow us on Twitter, so that might be a potential reality, though he's a busy as fuck guy. He's like a dad, and he's doing his show all the time and being a real journalist. So we'll see what's up. But yeah, would definitely check that out, and potentially down the line even like to chat with Mike. We had a great time talking to his partner, Abby Martin.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Brian, for that as well. And if you want to, Zach, you can screenshot those and we can pull them up at the end of the show, because I do feel bad they disappeared on my end, but it's not a big deal. Thank you so much, MX Row, though. Do appreciate that. Thank you also, Kevin Wood, for the $10. Alex Jones was found liable in a court of law. There will never be a perfect system, but I'll take that over some Yagoff billionaire deciding what is and isn't. Censorship opposition is crucial for all. Yeah, don't get me wrong, Kevin. Absolutely, Alex Jones was found liable in a court of law, but I don't necessarily think that means he should be banned either. I've never defended the banning of Alex Jones. Just because you're found guilty of defamation, I don't think you should get the internet death penalty. So I'm not trying to defend Alex Jones here, but as a free speech maximalist, no, I don't think you should be banned off Twitter, YouTube, etc.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, like I said, maybe those videos could be taken down because for sure. But yeah, there's no real way to define an internet death sentence. So while I use Alex Jones as my go-to example for the best argument for somebody being removed because they have committed a crime, and we're talking about a crime that's not a direct threat of violence, an imminent direct threat of violence. I can't just go and find somebody that I disagree with on the internet and then say I'm going to come to their house and kill them, and be like, I know your address is X, Y, and Z. Not allowed, can't do that. But everybody kind of accepts that. The next legal step would be somebody that's been found guilty of an actual fucking defamation or libel lawsuit. Excuse me. That is because libel is when you say it. Defamation is when you write it. So that's a little bit different. I don't think that Alex Jones writes anything down. I don't know if you know how to spell that good, but I'm kidding. Anyway, shout out to you, Kevin.
Yeah, that was the funny thing about the Kanye interview on InfoWars. I was like, damn, bro, if you're making Alex Jones look like the reasonable person in the room, you done fucked up hard. But thank you so much, Kevin. Really do appreciate that. And thank you also, Susie Stone, for the $20. Really, really appreciate that. Breaking Points in NYC was excellent yesterday. And I have to say, I just love Zach's rants. I'm on the same damn manic wavelength, and I love it. Well, thank you so much, Susie. So glad you enjoyed the Breaking Point show. Wish we could have been there. That would have been lit. I'm sure it was an awesome time. And thank you so much for the super chat. As always, really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm glad that somebody out there just appreciates the offshoot of my unmedicated poor mental health, you know. So I appreciate that, Susie. That's a first.
Unmedicated? I thought you just applied for your medical license.
That's true. That's true, actually. But you know, in order to save my, you know, original flavor for the air, I took like one golden little puff beforehand. But I was like, I don't know, fucking the medical weed, it fucking hits you different, dude. You'll take like you'll be like, you know. So, you know, got to keep my faculties in check while I do the show for the most part. But shout out to you, Susie Stone. Really appreciate that. I love ranting on this show. It's a mixed bag as far as how the audience feels about it, but we fucking soldier on.
Oh no, people love it, bro. Don't worry about that. It's not a mixed bag at all. That's why people click.
But anyway, shout out to you, Susie. And do we have any more super chats to react to, Gavin, or are we on to continue reacting to the show?
I think we're on to continue. Thank you so much, Susie. Thank you so much for the super chats, guys. Keep them coming. I promise we'll address everything. But yeah, let's get back into this because the attacks on Dore specifically escalate.
This is not like that when they say it's left-wing tech censorship. Mostly it's driven by my usage of this as a publicity vehicle for my own money-making operation is not as efficient as I would like it to be.
And the reason why I'm saying this is to set up the premise that the idea that anybody who tells you that there's no relevance to being on Twitter in terms of spreading stories, ideology, or whatnot is lying to you. And then you got to ask yourself, what is their agenda? I give you Demi Jor, or I should say Libtardo One. Is that what he calls himself?
Yeah.
It says Twitter provides a global communication platform which encompasses a variety of users with different voices, ideas, and perspectives.
Wait, this is not the clip. I'm sorry. This is not the clip. We played this clip last week, right? No, this is not the clip. It was the other clip.
Sam's so frustrated.
Bear with us, folks.
What was in reference to?
It was in reference to everything I just set up.
Okay.
Can you pause it real quick, Zach?
Hold on. Let me just...
Yeah, I feel like this happens all the time on the Majority Report, by the way. Like they play the wrong clip or the clip's not here. Oops, sorry about and Sam always acts so frustrated by it too. It's like, just chill, bro. Like, who cares? Just fucking play it off as a joke. Like, who fucking cares? Why are you getting so salty about this? Why do you look so bitter about the fact that they played the wrong fucking clip? I think that's pretty funny.
Super producer Matt Leck over here, holding the show down with his leftist credentials and his production skills. Sam out here, ungrateful. No, I hear you, Gavin. I mean, I literally have so many technical difficulties while we do this show and neither of us really give a fuck. We're just like, oh yeah, DIY, whatever. Fucking, you all watched people during the pandemic when they fumbled and fucked it up. Gavin and I just never learned, like fucking, but yeah, no reason to get salty about it because I feel like generally for the most part, like the audience just really doesn't care. But I think it's a big difference in mindset between streamer mindset and like, oh, well, fuck it, we'll just go on for as long as we want. And then maybe the fact that the Majority Report is like on air for radio. I think it does like actually broadcast on air. And I know they're like fucking fascists when it comes to like radio broadcasting rules and like getting everything cut and whatnot. But anyway, who knows?
Yeah. I just think it's funny. Sam always seems so frustrated when there's any sort of difficulty like that. I'm like, just who cares? Also, they posted this video as a clip from their live show. So why don't you edit this out of the clip, bro? Like you could have just edited this out and gone right to the clip, but no, you got to keep in the embitterment.
Yeah, Gavin guzzling the haterade today. No, I'm kidding.
Mm-hmm.
He does look pissed.
Here it is. Hold on one second. Sorry. Bear with us. We're a person short today. Here it is. Okay, here's the clip.
Roger Stone, the former Trump advisor, made a brief return to Twitter ahead of Musk's takeover. He was swiftly rebanned after being suspended for attacking journalists. Jesus Christ. Attacking journalists with a tweet.
Pause it for 1 second. Now, this is my favorite part about this. My favorite part. Well, not my favorite part. This is one of my favorite parts about this clip. It's so ridiculous, the idea of attacking journalists. All right, let's for the moment just stipulate that, okay, it is. This guy has the thinnest skin that I think is actually possible to keep bones within a body. If his skin was any thinner, honestly, his bones would just fall out of him.
Yeah, right.
That is true.
What a lovely image.
And God knows how much bourbon or whatever scotch would also just sort of follow that.
Negronis.
But, because watch this. After seconds saying like, oh, attacks on Twitter, then he starts to sort of like list how many times he's been attacked.
Yeah.
He's so sensitive about
and
it.
he's so sensitive about it that he had to create an alt account that he's now admitted to being him in order to defend himself from said attacks. That's not somebody who is
who doesn't think
taking
that this
criticism.
is attacking,
Lightly.
Here we go.
Yeah, and he also probably has more than one alt account. Let's just say that for the record.
Oh, he admitted that. Yeah, he
Journalist.
admitted that publicly. He was like, "Thank God the really embarrassing one didn't get leaked."
Yeah, Jesus. And that one had the Liptardo one had that really fucking cringy tweet at Katie Halper. He was like, I've got something you can put your face in. I was like, you disgusting sack of shit. I can't believe you said that to your colleague. Like, I've said some rude
Nasty.
things, but I would never say something like
Fuck no. Fuck no. That was so gross. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Attacking journalists with a tweet. Zelia Banks, the rapper who had a reputation for offensive tweets, rants, and for trolling celebrities, including Musk, has been suspended multiple times and was permanently suspended in 2020 for transphobic tweets. Oh, you can't cross that line on Twitter.
Pause
but
it
now
real
I think
quick.
you can again.
Just wanted to address this from Xena. Everyone has an alt or two. No, yes, but not everyone uses their alt to fucking publicly defend themselves on Twitter and engage with their own critics as if that's not them talking. Like, yeah, I have a couple other Twitter accounts. I have a couple other YouTube accounts, but I'm not fucking in the comments fighting battles on behalf of myself, pretending like I'm someone else. That's what makes it cringe, Xena.
Yeah, Jimmy went full Kevin Durant. Okay, do you guys remember when Kevin Durant broke the goddamn internet because everybody found out that he was just responding to like random internet trolls from a burner and he like forgot, and it was hilarious. And everybody was like, "Oh my God, you're a fucking NBA star, but you're so thin-skinned. You're just like a fucking little bitch." Basically, that was the kind of rhetoric that was going around because as the time passed, people got more sensitive on the internet. But also, I love how Jimmy stops at nothing to take an opportunity to go ahead and be a turf. Now he knows who he's signaling to, and he was like, "Oh yeah, this person was transphobic. Oh God, can't even be transphobic anymore. Can't even say shit like that anymore. Wow, like yeah, she violated the TOS. Sorry, bro. Like, what are you saying? Like, I don't know."
Absolutely, it's pretty revealing for sure.
Because they got rid of the person. There was pretty sure there was a trans lady in charge of that kind of trans banning.
Pause it. You see that? Like, and necessarily, this is the same line actually that you would hear from right wingers. Like, you can't have, or even Donald Trump, you can't have anybody of Mexican descent looking over my immigration policy.
He said it about a judge who was of Mexican descent.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't. I mean,
They're biased.
They're biased.
I mean, but he's not biased in favor of white people. No, couldn't be, or rich people.
No,
couldn't be.
He's an arbiter.
Yeah,
he's completely without any bias.
Of that kind of trans banning. Katie Hopkins, the British media personality and controversial right-wing commentator, was kicked off Twitter in 2020 for violating its hateful conduct. Really? I mean, all that shit that Rob Reiner tweets and Pete Overman tweets about me, that's not hateful? David Duke, the former Ku Klux Klan Grand Wizard and brazen white supremacist, was ousted on the platform in 2020 for repeatedly violating Twitter. And so what's good about that, when you ban a guy like that, he just goes away then.
I was waiting. I was like, we got to hear what Jimmy has to say. Oh, surely he'll just steamroll over David Duke. He'll be like, oh, okay, well, this guy, hateful conduct. But no, he can't even do that. He's like, no, I got to find a way to signal to my audience that I like, I don't know, David Duke, hateful conduct. That's just nothing. That's just nothing. Hateful conduct from David Duke. Just like that other lady, hateful conduct. What's that? What's hateful conduct? Repeatedly violating Twitter's rules on hateful conduct. What's that? Like, it's just like, bro, like of all the things to get outraged about, this is the example that you're plucking. You're like, David Duke was banned from Twitter. Like, I just like, you're trying to get people on your side, and this is what you're doing. I can't.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you think that's what happens? They don't go away.
No, we don't. Pause it.
They're
I'm
still
sorry. Like, again, just the dishonesty of this, setting up like a false. It's a straw man. The left does not think that when you ban David Duke from Twitter that he goes away, that he dies. Like, this is not an execution that we're all voting on here. No, we know that he just reaches a much smaller audience, which is what their critique of Twitter in essence boils down to, is that we want more of a voice. So you understand that Twitter amplifies certain voices, and we've decided as a society that the Ku Klux Klan is not something that we want to be platformed and given that extra step of amplification.
We haven't even decided as a society, as much as like, just the audience members on Twitter, and the primary driver of making it profitable or making any revenue has decided like we don't want to platform this guy. But his argument is deplatforming doesn't work. But in fact, we know it does.
Yes.
We also know that he himself backed off some of his anti-vax stuff because he was afraid of getting deplatformed from YouTube. So it clearly does. Now, you could argue like you shouldn't in any way inhibit people's ability to make money just because they're putting out lies and conspiracy theories. Then maybe Jimmy would argue that because that's the way he's made all of his money. Not all of it, but the vast majority of it, at least that he's made through YouTube. You got to put gas in those BMWs too, apparently. But that's the point. The fact of the matter is it does make a difference if David Duke is not platformed on Twitter. You want to argue whether it's right or wrong? That's a separate argument. But does it make a difference? I guarantee you that the percentage of people under the age of 30, now maybe his audience is all old, I don't think it is, don't know who David Duke is.
They might not know who David Duke is, but they do know who Nick Fuentes is. And at this point, who's fucking counting the differences? Okay. So I would slightly disagree with Sam on this point. I think that it's a mixed bag, especially with how big of a personality it is, because part of the appeal and part of what happens with younger people, like they'll just get off Twitter if all of their favorite fuckers get banned. That's what made 8chan and all those like weird meme boards that became immediately like white supremacist bastions, right? That's why people like Nick Fuentes have the money to start their own streaming service, and then it makes it so it's harder for it to be mocked by people like Gavin. Sam Seder himself, an excellent mocker of the right wing. I think that if you just discourage like the people who are going to be really fucking dangerous, right? They're getting further and further away. They're out of the mainstream now, and sure, you might by the numbers have less people that know who these people are. The people who do know who they are, they've completely left reality now. They live in this fucking world where everything that this guy tells them is true. And sometimes those people get enough power that they become president, right? Donald Trump could feasibly become the Republican nominee, and he could have done it without Twitter, right? You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't just make them go away. It can be damaging for their career, for like in terms of being like the largest broadcaster in media, or like trying to get one of those top numbers on YouTube. But you guys have to remember, Alex Jones had a fuck ton of YouTube viewers, and then he just kind of took, like, yes, he has less, but he took all the diehards, all the deranged crazies, and he brought them with him where he could just peddle whatever the fuck he wanted. So for guys like Jimmy Dore, who they don't want to leave the entire, they don't want to like just destroy their reputation with the regular world completely by just being somebody who's like a known, like fucking just crazy person. He's still trying to toe the line, which is why censorship, would work on keeping somebody like Jimmy like from towing the like crazy things. But I just don't think that one makes it the best move, and two, it keeps us like safer, right? Because like I said, the people who are going to go and shoot up their school, the people who are going to go do actual violence to in the name of their like deranged anti-Semitic or white supremacist values. Those people are going to be emboldened by their tight-knit community. They're going to feel supported by that community instead of openly derided by the rest of us, which is how like they should be feeling.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I do think it's an issue with the censorship because it does just lead to people going down an even further echo chamber. That's why we have censorship TV, where fucking people like Gavin McInnes now stream, and all of these Nazis. Like, it's just further separating their fanatical right-wing followers into even further of an echo chamber. Now they don't even get to hear the pushback to these ideas. They're just hearing the same shit over and over again. And I do think that's a problem. It's why we've over and over again defended the free speech of even the most abhorrent and disgusting commentators that exist.
Absolutely.
A big part of that is because he doesn't have access to this platform.
And the same thing happened with Milo. I mean, Milo was so prominently online, and all of his comments were so like, I would say most prominently on Twitter, like everyone was sharing them and like reacting to them. And then he got deplatformed and he kind of fell off the face of the earth, so to speak, until right now with the Kanye stuff. And he, in Parler or whatever app he used, talked about how as a result, he didn't really have anywhere to publicize anything and therefore was not profitable. He wasn't making money.
All right, I just want to say for the record that Milo dug his own grave, and it was because he said that he was actually good to be raped as a young child that people decided to stop fucking with him. I think that part of that, I think obviously I fuck Milo Yiannopoulos. The dude has always been crazy, but I just think that had a lot, that embarrassment. I remember there were the videos of him like calling off his engagement. So it wasn't like Milo like completely disappeared. He did take a hit, but he took a hit because he said that shit. I don't know if it like, if he had just been saying something that his audience really liked, because it's hard to be the groomer guy and also the rape is good guy, raping children is good guy. Like, you can't tell your audience Pizzagate and then tell everybody you got fucked as a child and you thought that was a good thing. Then they're gonna, hey man, what's going on? Even that audience is gonna put that together. So I mean, he had no home for that fucking argument that he was presenting, and he was already on thin ice, because you got to remember, those people hate gay people. So he's playing with fire, okay? Fucking being the guy of having an audience of people who actively fucking hate his community, right? So, I mean, Milo was not nearly as big either as a guy like Alex Jones. I mean, he was probably about the size of Nick Fuentes at his peak, right? Gavin, you have a better catalog memory of that, but I feel like he was big, but he wasn't huge.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. Absolutely.
So it really does make a difference. Now, again, if you want to argue that the government should force Twitter or these other platforms to put all of these people on there, that's a separate argument. You're also opening the door to the type of regulation that I'm in favor of too, on some level, but expansion of like antitrust, and I'm happy to open the door to having government make these regulations and force business to do certain things. But we should also decide that democratically on some level too. But that's not what he's saying. He's just simply saying it's ridiculous to think that deplatforming means anything. Meanwhile, it's absolutely wrong that people are deplatformed because it denies them what? In the past, he said a living or a voice. But wait, how is it both things simultaneously? Good.
And even though I disagree with Sam, it's true that he would debate Jimmy into a fat corner and Jimmy would quit within like 10 seconds if they actually had a debate like this. I debated Sam about this, and he, I was like, this dude is a damn convincing debater. And I just want to say that's why Jimmy will never ever debate Sam. You will never, like, for all of his like supporters being the shut up and debate me bros, Jimmy will, like, I mean, he would never ever be able to have responses to what Sam is saying in real time. And I was just thinking about that as they do this breakdown.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've already seen that happen. The one time they did debate into his show 2015 or whatever, that is what happened.
Do you think that's what happens? They don't go away. They're still in our country. They're still doing things. And don't you think it's better to see what they're doing and hear what they're saying than to not? Of course it is. Aubrey Huff, the former San Francisco judge.
We don't even need to go any further than this. It's one thing to make the argument that the way that you defeat ideologies or way that you show the stupidity of somebody, let's say, is to show them to your audience. For instance, I don't think that it's helpful that people go and listen to Jimmy Dore without anybody providing a corrective. But I do think it's helpful to, in this case, have Jimmy Dore try and make an argument about something and dispel it in real time.
I also just want to take the moment to thank Sam for his indirect shout out. Yeah, I always wondered what he thought of the Vanguard, but in this clear piece of information, apparently he thinks we're a net good. So shout out to you, Sam. I appreciate the kind words you're saying about your own show, but we know you're also talking about us over here doing the heavy lifting. Shout out to you.
Yeah, and shout out to you also, Jonathan, for the $10. Just for kicks, imagine a Jimmy Dore versus Sam Seder debate hosted by Crystal Kyle and friends, where Sam constantly interrupts him as his MO and Jimmy rage quits the second Crystal or Kyle direct a pointed question his way. LOL. I mean, we'd love to see that happen. Seder and Jimmy Dore debate under any circumstance.
100%. There was a time where, it could have been in the Vanguard's cards to, grow and host something like that. But, Jimmy would never consider us a fair mediation. And even though we've made countless videos being critical of Sam, I feel like he would say yes. But anyway, Jimmy would rage quit. And honestly, guys, interruption is a debate strategy that you always have to deal with. If you're debating somebody, even if Gavin and I are debating each other, throwing out your questions quickly and pivotally, that is part of being an effective debater, right? If you want to ask 3 or 4 questions and make your opponent nervous, that's why people like Vosh are just consistently good at debates, even if they didn't do their homework. They could just be da 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 da, watch you back yourself into a corner, follow up on that corner, and lace it up. Just saying, I think that Sam is actually pretty damn good at that.
Oh, 100%. And again, I would love to see the debate happen. It's not going to. We even asked Jimmy Dore when we had him on the podcast, a couple of years ago now, will you debate Sam Seder? And nope, he basically just pretended to not know who Sam Seder was, which was kind of funny, but yeah, he's not going to do it.
Yeah, that is a good bit, but it is getting old. It's okay, fearless guy, the only truth teller, but you won't slay your nemesis. Okay, fine, because you would fall flat on your face, pancake style. But that's besides the point. And I don't even agree with Sam on all this, but I'm just he comes to bat just straight up. It's kind of like Vosh. We used to say hey, I don't you respect the game and the you know what I mean? Game recognized game.
Yep, and that's one thing you can't say about Sam Seder. He definitely will debate pretty much fucking anybody. I mean, if he debated us, and he did, go check that out. I thought we did pretty good. But if he debated us, there's no one he won't debate, right? We're just 2 random fuckers that get 275 live viewers. The dude is willing to hash out his disagreements or hash out his point of view in the marketplace of ideas, so to speak.
Oh yeah, and that was after we raked his ass for getting rid of Jamie Peck on his show.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think that it's wrong for us to play a clip of David Duke if we are there to correct his lies and to contextualize what he's saying so that people understand it within a historical and a factual context. I do think that if you get these circle jerk guys, that's how he refers to himself, right? Is a circle jerk comedian?
Oh, yeah.
If you allow them to maintain their circle jerk as they go around in that circle, there's nobody who can enter into that circle and tell people who don't know any better what the reality is. So there it is.
I've heard rituals that if you want to get onto the Jimmy Dore show, it's a circle jerk, that old college frat hazing where, they put the biscuit in the middle and the last guy, fucking what he has to do. That's the initiation process. So I don't know, hidden in a deep well somewhere. I'm sure you can find it.
But that just occurred to me because we're about to talk to Donald Trump, and we were saying why don't we hear about Donald Trump that often these days? And a big part of it, I think, is that he doesn't have access to these mainstream social media platforms. And so it's much easier to ignore him. And it means that he's not going away and he's still reaching his audience, but he doesn't have the same sway within our culture at the moment that he would have otherwise.
It also makes it more difficult to assess how he's connecting with the Republican base. Our guess is that it's high. Our guess is that he still is probably the favorite to be the nominee. But it's much harder to assess when he is so cloistered and in these circle jerk.
That right there actually does not strike me as a good thing, though, right? Where she's saying like it's harder to gauge his support.
Right.
Like, isn't that a fucking problem? Like, isn't the whole like, don't we want to gauge that support? And I don't know. I just at some point though, that's got to stop working too, because you have a guy like Donald Trump, you have a guy like Kanye West. At some point, you just like, yeah, Kanye's kicked off of everything. Yeah, excuse me, fucking kicked off of everything, right? But he still is a massive cultural force. There's no, like, it's almost impossible to take that away from Kanye. I don't think it is possible. Like, people who have done horrible shit, but you just can't like strip them away from like your memory, right? Like, and Kanye, he hasn't yet done anything like criminal. Like, it's not like he's going to jail. It's not like you can literally like remove him from society. He hasn't broken the law. You know, he's just made himself so unlikable. He's espoused such deplorable, unforgivable belief systems that you know, the people have just said, hey, we're not fucking with you anymore. But like, you know, Michael Jackson, you could never make the guy not famous, right? Kanye West is one of those dudes where he was so big, you could just never make him not famous. I mean, I'm trying to think of people who are like more ingrained in our cultural like people who we know like to the level of Kanye, and so it's gonna be so hard to keep people from just like Googling Kanye or like finding about his music and then finding out, like, they're gonna go down the rabbit hole anyway. Like, we might as well be able to, as she says you're clearly unable to do, keep tabs on it. Like, who is falling for this shit? And if they constantly see him as the butt of a joke, his beliefs as the butt of a joke, I think that's better than people thinking like, oh man, he was really right, like blah 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 blah.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, despite our many criticisms of Jimmy Dore, I do have to say that I agree with his perspective more when it comes to censorship and social media censorship than Sam Seder's here. I think basically what Jimmy said in this clip, and what you just said, Zach, is correct, that it's better we know what these people are talking about. It's better that we know what people are talking about rather than relegating them to these echo chambers where they're only going to further radicalize their supporters. I think that that's something that should be obvious, and it honestly does annoy me that so many people on the left, so many liberals like Sam Seder, seem to not understand that. Again, it's a very liberal way of thinking to say that out of sight, out of mind, right? If I don't have to look at what Nick Fuentes is saying, then nobody does. Or if I don't have to look at what Kanye West is saying, then nobody's going to see it. That's not true. These people's supporters are only going to be driven further into their radical right-wing echo chambers, and then they're not going to see anyone even pushing back on said ideas. And that's even more problematic, in my opinion. I think that people like Kanye West, people like Nick Fuentes, people like Donald Trump's ideas are dumb enough and weak enough that we can take them on, that we can counter them in the public, in the marketplace of ideas. And I'm confident in our ability to do so, given how dog shit these people's ideas actually are. And if anything, it just makes the right wing look worse for guys like Kanye West to be out here spewing their anti-Semitic garbage, and people like Nick Fuentes and Donald Trump out here spewing their fucking fascist crap. Like, I actually think it's better for the left that the right wing is so publicly self-immolating in this way for all to see.
100%, 100%. You know, I mean, that was the whole theory of the Michael Brooks show, right? Was that, you know, the leftists needed to compete with the right wingers and engage with them in real time. And obviously there's limits, and, you know, who knows what the fuck Michael would have thought about any of this. Would never try and, like, you know, figure it out what he would have said. But yeah, I just, from that was one of the things that immediately like pricked my brain about being on YouTube, where it was like, oh yeah, right now it is a right-wing cesspool. Sans a few people like Kyle Kalinske who have been really fucking just yelling at the wall since 2008, and, you know, obviously I'm not following. But outside of that, it was just a right-wing cesspool. And then there was a lot of leftists who were just like the uber woke, super social justice warrior-y, like, just like, I won't even engage with anybody who's a toxic person. And it was like, no, fuck that. We have to engage with these people. Their ideas are toxic, not them. And of course, we're talking about their followers, these individuals that are making a fucking boatload of money off other people's suffering and subjugation. Fuck them. No sympathy for them. You know. But anyway, I just think that you can't just force these people into a box, because, yeah, maybe less people will know who they are. Yes, they'll be less culturally relevant, but the most dangerous people, the people who are the most vulnerable, who you absolutely do not want to have this normalized and insulate a community within, because that's how tragedies happen. Yeah, then I think that You can't just shove them all off into the corner because they're not going away. The ideas will just become dog whistles, which will lead the people away. Like that's why Tim Pool was like, oh, blah blah blah, and then the next dog whistle guy is Alex Jones, and it's like, oh, that's how Kanye sank his ship so fast. He just blew through all the layers of like fucking dog whistling, where it gets louder and louder and louder until he just said the right fucking thing. He just started barking. So, anyway.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Mike Gage, for the $2. Has Stinkle been on Jimmy Dore recently? Oh yeah, I think couple days ago he was on the Jimmy Dore show to talk about being banned off of Twitter. So yeah, clearly the fact that he's openly simping for Kanye West, the most famous Nazi in the world right now, has not prevented Jimmy Dore from re-inviting him back on the program.
Don't forget the based Benjamin Netanyahu clip, and everything this guy does is like a parody that you'd have to be dumber than like he is like the perfect amount of just dumb as fuck to just like fall right into like temporary success. Maybe he'll hit the lottery and be Tim Pool level dumb and fucking falling into success, but I don't think he's as convincing as Tim Pool is. And he's definitely fucking dumb as shit. So who knows? But yeah, no, that's hilarious that he still goes on Jimmy Dore's show. That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, you're a grifter when you're out here simping for both Benjamin Netanyahu and Kanye West. But that's where we're at when it comes to Mr. Haxon Stinkle. But anyway, thank you so much for the $2, Mike. Really do appreciate that. And yeah, that dude will say anything for money. Literally fucking anything. Thank you also, Brittany, for the $5. Saw Jimmy Dore live in 2021, and it was word for word his stand-up special from 2015. Dude hasn't written a new joke in 6 years. Felt swindled. Seder sucks too. LOL. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, both these guys have opinions I disagree with. We've spent much of our channel's history publicly disagreed with both of these guys. We were happy to chat with Sam Seder, and we were happy to chat with Jimmy Dore at the time, and we'd be happy to chat with either of them at any point if they wanted to hash out other areas of disagreement. I've never seen Jimmy Dore live, so I can't specifically attest to that, but appreciate you for sharing your perspective, Brittany. We always appreciate seeing you in the chat. Thank you so much for the $5.
Yeah, I mean, that's hilarious. To his credit, I have seen him make other jokes in clips of his like live audience, but I wouldn't be surprised if he leans heavily on that fucking stand up from almost 8 years ago. That's hilarious. And that's a big problem for comedians. Like some people just don't like to write new shit for stand up. And so if he thinks he can just milk the cow by saying some mean shit about Kyle and Crystal, and then talking about how much the fucking Obama and Biden suck and all that kind of shit, then yeah, he'll probably just keep leaning on that until he can't anymore. But, the fact of the matter is he was never really that successful of a comedian. He's there to do exactly what the right wing and people like Joe Rogan constantly bitch about in comedy, but he just does the invert of it. Like, how all those people, and they just were like Trump bad became their comedy. Like he just does that kind of comedy, but for his like really specific audience. And, hey, more power to him. That's essentially what I do for my fucking
right.
Audience, but I don't go out there and pretend that I'm a fucking stand-up either. Like, I don't know. Like I could go out there. I could be like, so yeah, everybody said the world was gonna change after the fucking COVID, huh? Has the world changed, everybody? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Brittany. Really appreciate that. And also, that's pretty funny, Drew. I'm embarrassed. I told my ex I liked Hinkle 2 years ago, and she probably thinks I'm a fascist now. LOL. I mean, that's a testament to just what a transparent ideological 180 that motherfucker has committed over the last 2 years. Because yeah, I mean, a couple of years ago, he basically sounded like a Kyle or a Hassan or TYT listening lefty. And now he's like out here hanging out with Jordan Peterson, fucking talking about how based Putin is. There's really no denying the grift that he's done. And again, I think the fact that you share that anecdote, Drew, illustrates that, because yeah, 2 years ago I wouldn't have judged someone for enjoying Hinkle's content. We called him out before a lot of other people did. We especially Zach, we smelled what was going on. We smelled the bullshit, but a lot of people didn't, and I don't blame you, Drew, for being one of those people.
Oh no, dude, fuck no. I mean, to be fair, I smelt that shit from a mile away, and I just got such bad vibes from that fucking guy, that fucking dude. But of course, a lot of people, I mean, they just have like fonder feelings for like commentators that they listen to. And I don't know. I always just thought that he was a fucking rat. But anyway, hey, I'm not trying to give myself. I don't break my spine patting myself on the back. I mean, he's like a 22-year-old kid. Like you could just be like, fuck you. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Also, thank you so much, Mike H, for the $2. Joe Burrow. That is all. Do you know who that is, Zach?
I do know who that is, and I'm actually gonna post a. I'm gonna share my screen for a second. This is just for you, Mike. This is a picture of Patrick Mahomes doing something that Joe Burrow's never gonna get to fucking do.
This is a football thing.
Just throw this up there. Hey, look, it's winning a fucking Super Bowl. And call me when Joe Burrow gets a fucking Super Bowl. You want me to show you a picture of him holding up the MVP trophy, which he's the favorite to get again this year? Yeah, talk to me then. Call me back. Thank you.
That's funny. Is Joe Burrow the quarterback of something?
Yeah, he's the quarterback of Cincinnati. We just fucking lost to, and he beat us
yeah.
And it's a real big bitch. And honestly, it's really tough to beat a fucking football team 3 times in a row, especially fucking football team with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. So I'm confident that, you know what, we're gonna get our shit together. The Chiefs are definitely. I mean, if fucking the Chargers lose and we win next week, we already cinch our spot in the playoffs. Wicked early. We did lose our fucking bye week to fucking the Bills. The Bills have to lose, and I don't think they're going to. And we'd have to win out the season. So, you know, we lose the first round bye, but I like that. That's some good conditioning. Get in there, get in the playoff spirit. But shout out to you, Mike 8.
And Brittany says, give me my $5 back.
Brittany,
Sorry,
you're gonna
Brittany.
have to send somebody to come collect.
Yeah, send the process server over to the Vanguard headquarters. Be like, hey, give me those $5 motherfucking bucks. Anyway, I really appreciate that, Brittany. We love you. And yeah.
And also, I don't. If you're from Joe Burrow's hometown, Brittany, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to be a dick. I was just trying to think of something funny to put up on screen when I read that super chat.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, I really appreciate you all for tuning in today. I really do apologize for the internet issues. I know it's probably been super annoying. I promise that will be no longer. That will be rectified as of our next stream. So really appreciate you guys for tuning in despite that. Is there anything else you wanted to chat about today, Zach, before we get out of here?
I just wanted to shout out, not that anybody in our fucking audience needs this lesson or needs this advice, but tomorrow, the actual working people that make the New York Times run, the actual fucking union at the New York Times is staging a walkout. So shout out to everybody. Yeah, you did say you heard about that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So just fuck it. If you play Wordle, delete that shit from your phone. Don't give them any clicks tomorrow. Make a point. It's been 2 years and 10 months since their union negotiated a new contract. The publishers, I believe I heard, got a 40% raise already, and yet it's been 2 years, 10 months, and they haven't ratified the union agreement or whatever. So they're doing a walkout. I know everybody has mixed feelings. Your dad was a unionized New York Times employee. Yeah, the New York Times has a bad rep for good reason because they've published a lot of bullshit and they'll do cover-ups. But they also do a lot of really good reporting around New York City. So the regular working class folks that are, making that fucking paper run, they need our support. They're union people. So don't cross the digital picket line. Fuck up their numbers. Don't let them get a single click. They charge you anyway, so fuck them. It's super easy to not go to their website and pay money to look at their fucking worthless ass articles on the day they're trying to break the union's balls. So yeah, that was the only thing I wanted to shout out before we left. And shout out to you, Charlie. Way to cap off the live stream. Really appreciate you. We will keep up that great work of rambling on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Charlie. We always appreciate hearing kind comments like that. Thank you so much for the $20. And again, thank you everyone that tuned in today. Genuinely appreciate it. I'm so sorry about the internet issues. I know it's probably annoying for you guys. It's annoying for me too. But I promise it won't be happening going forward. Get an Ethernet cable in the mail, and then I'll be back in Kansas City in like a couple days. So if we go live before then, I promise it won't be an issue. And if not, I'll be back in Kansas City with my Ethernet cable, so the shit won't happen again. But genuinely appreciate that, guys. So sorry about the technical difficulties. Hope it wasn't too unbearable. And yeah, really appreciate you, Charlie. Thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate the kind words and the support, man.
Yeah, shout out to everybody that tuned in today. Shout out to the patrons. Shout out to the comrades, Vanguardians, Super Vanguardians, those loveliest fuckers that keep us afloat here at the Vanguard. We really appreciate you all. Of course, you're all comrades in our heart. You can hit the like button, the subscribe button, the notification bell, and then you have to do the little fucking YouTube hang up where it's like notify me every time and all that kind of shit if you want to never miss us in our erratic scheduling. When we go live, we're doing more in the evening. We heard from a lot of people say it was easier when they got off work to tune in. So 5 o'clock Central is where we're shooting for most days, unless I have to be at the bar, in which case we'll, do it sometime before then, get you guys your Vanguard fix. But yeah, the link's in the description, and shout out to everybody that tuned in.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you tuning in. I promise the next time you tune in, we won't be experiencing any of these internet difficulties, technical difficulties. But yeah, huge shout out to the Patreon community. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. The link's in the description. If you guys want to hit that up, it's a great way to support the show and keep us sustainable. If you enjoy our content, if you agree with our perspective, if you want to make sure that this show can continue into the future, that is the best way to support us. And Mark says, what if I want to donate but not be a comrade?
Love a good hate donation.
Yeah. Well, you can donate any amount under $5 and you won't technically be a comrade, but either way, we appreciate it anyway, Mark. Anyway, links in the description. Hit it up, guys, if you enjoy the show, if you agree with our perspective, or if you just like to hate watch us and want to make sure you can continue to do so. That's also an option. But thank you guys so much for the support. We really appreciate that. And we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah. Peace out, everybody. Take care.
Peace out, guys. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Peace.